My name is Peter Ree. I'm a project manager on a project between GCF and UNOPS that has been running for 4 years now, during which we provide grant management services on behalf of GCF. So, and I'm here with my two colleagues, Safa here and Mariana, who's over there. It's a great pleasure to meet you again, finally, both to the NDAs and delivery partners who we are in contact with on a daily basis. We have the pleasure of meeting you bilaterally as well. We have met some of you already. We'll meet more today and also tomorrow. If some of you here would like to have a bilateral meeting with us, by all means, let us know and we will arrange. But it's also good to meet with the GCF colleagues with whom we have been working since 2018. We haven't seen many of them face to face. So it's finally nice to, after 3 years of online dialogue, to be able to meet. So also to the GCF colleagues who found time to come here this morning, I really appreciate it. So, okay, I need to operate this as well at the same time. So basically what we would like to do today is have a very interactive session to discuss some of the challenges and lessons learned we have observed in terms of providing grant management services to delivery partners around the globe. We'll do this through a relatively brief presentation, just giving you a little bit of a snapshot. What is the GCF UNOPS project support about? How do we provide support and what kind of services? And then dive into what are some of the challenges that we have seen in terms of implementation. Why are we looking into this? And how did we go about the analysis? We then present the key findings to you. And at the end, we really would like to open up to have an interactive and a good discussion. So I very much encourage you to, first of all, ask any questions, any comments you may have towards the end of the session. My presentation is not long. I'll try to keep it at a maximum 15 minutes, after which we'll have time for discussion. So basically here you would see in terms of the support that UNOPS is providing on behalf of GCF. And it's a lot of text, but it's not that complicated. On the left-hand side here, you see we work on what we call pre-selected grants. That means UNOPS is not involved in the selection or approval of proposals, nor in the selection or approval of delivery partners. All that is with GCF. We only come in here once a project has been approved and a delivery partner has been approved. We're then notified by GCF, and that's when we come in. The first thing we do is share with you a draft grant support agreement, which we negotiate, and after some time, we hopefully find an agreement and sign this. Once signed, we transfer money. First installment, and the day you receive your first installment, that's also the first day of the project. That's when the project starts. And subsequently, we'll be dispersing funds according to the disbursement schedule in the project proposal. Then, of course, as well, we help on day-to-day management. But no, and first of all, we review, we do receive all your interim progress report, your completion reports, and we do review them and take this very, very seriously on our side. Review them in detail. We very often, some of you will recognize, we come back for clarification questions. And ultimately, we give an assessment of what's the current status of implementation of the project. This information, of course, is shared with you as well as with GCF. In addition to that, we provide day-to-day services. You may have requests for changes and using the adaptive management measures. And this is really the key topic of today, how we use this and how this is being, what are the results and experience using adaptive management measures. And then, of course, ultimately, when the project comes to an end, we close it and make sure there's no financial outstandings that needs to be sorted out. As you can see on this one, we have a very good geographical spread. Most projects we have we have a total of 203 projects, by the way, which is it's rather a lot. I think last time I was here in 2019, we had a similar session in a much smaller room. And at that time, I think we had 20 projects. So things have evolved dramatically since then. But we have 203 projects globally in 119 different countries, also 119 implementing partners. And the current value of all these grants is at 123 million. We expect to be closing grants that will move along, but also new ones will come along. So we anticipate this number to also grow in the future. You can see it's all around the globe. Most are in Latin America, but also quite a few in Africa, Asia, and Pacific, and only 2 currently in Europe. Okay, so the reason, and now I'm coming into the more subject, why are we doing this analysis? Well, in June this year, we had a project board meeting with GCF and UNOPS, where we presented an update in terms of what's the status of the project implementation, etc. And one of the things that we highlighted there was that we see an extensive and a significant increase in requests for changes, and particularly requests for no-cost extensions. And the numbers are quite high, as you can see. It says 80% of all projects have been extended at least once. And that number is actually higher because we are already, as we speak, processing more ones. So, and many of the projects are asking for an extension. Out of these, 70% has been extended twice, and we even have requests for third and fourth extensions as well. And the period is also relatively long compared to the overall duration of the projects. 8 months is the average. And you may say, why is this a problem? This is just one of the GCF's adaptive management measures that's available for us. And that is true. It should be there in terms of rectifying when needed. But there's also a downside to this. These NCA requests, they are extremely time consuming. You have to prepare your request, all the documents, you send it to us, we review them. Very often we go back to you, back to us, over to GCF for questions. They may have more questions. And all of that may not even lead to an approval if the request is not said to be justified. And in addition to that, we spend a lot of time, and should it be approved, well, then we need to prepare an amendment on top of it, which also takes time. So we actually lose quite a lot of time processing the no-cost extension request. In addition to the no-cost extension request, we do also see a significant increase in requests for budget reallocation and for changes in activities. So all this led to the project board saying, well, we need to have a bit deeper understanding. Why is this happening? Why is there a mismatch between what has been planned in the project design and what we see in reality? So that was the task we set out to do. And I'm going to share with you some of the results, not all of it, because it's rather a lot. But basically what we did, we took a look at all the information we had available to us. We were looking at the 48 most recent requests for changes, most of them being no-cost extensions, but also requests for budget reallocation and changes in activities. And then we took a very deep dive looking at the 138 IPRs and completion reports that we have received to date, with a particular focus on the challenges and lessons learned session. So by analyzing this, and again, I want to emphasize, this is not really UNOPS saying this. This is what comes out of the reports we receive from you and the requests we receive from the delivery partner. We were able to sort of draw up the findings. We did so by categorizing the challenges into 3 overall thematic areas. The first one being on internal challenges, which are project related. On the left-hand side here, you'll see the areas. Consultants recruitments is one of the big ones. That's the one we see coming across the board on most of the requests. This includes unavailability of consultants, lack of qualified consultants, and long hiring processes. I'll come back to this point a little later. Also observing project design problems, maybe and a little bit of an optimistic assessment, how long time would be needed, etc. Data collection, do we have the right data available, and do we have access to it? Also, it is difficult, but of course, when you need to do a budget, you prepare a budget, you estimate, but very often we see there's an underestimation on budget required, leading to many requests for budget reallocations. Project teams, high turnover at country level has been named by you as some of the biggest challenges as well, language barriers, etc. And then, of course, for project team to really have a full understanding of the technical nature of the project is also mentioned. The second category is more on the external challenges, during which you have highlighted stakeholder engagement communication as being one, communication between the NDAs, the DPs, and the beneficiaries, for example. There might be changes in government, staff turnover with the NDA, some key focal points there. Also, of course, things change over time in politics, so that what was a priority at one point may change rapidly. So that has been pointed out as another challenge. And then the big one, of course, the very unexpected COVID-19. We do understand, recognize this has had a significant impact on your implementation. To some extent, but minor extent, some countries, of course, have experienced natural disasters and political and economic stability. The last category we call GCF UNOPS related, which is really on the processes. The challenge here was mentioned that from the time that you submit your first proposal and until it's ultimately approved by GCF is quite long. You have all been through this. It's go back and forth a few times. So the timing there's a challenge there, because what was a priority at the time of submission may not really be a priority at the time of approval. In addition to that, of course, you're negotiating with us in terms of signing the grant support agreement, also a process that can take some time if we cannot agree on the legal substance. So all in all, saying from the time a project is submitted the first time and you start implementation, you do experience quite a long period. Good. So all in all, under these three thematic categories, we have 13 areas of challenge. We looked at these from a regional perspective for each of the region we work. I'm not going to present it today, so I'll just present sort of on a global scale what are the key challenges. And here you can see it. No surprise, COVID-19 affected all of us. So that was, of course, the main challenge pointed out by you. But you also saw this very frequently the issues regarding recruitment of consultants and securing services of firms and to provide the necessary technical support. Stakeholder engagement indeed was also mentioned by quite a few institutions, the stability and the project challenge associated with the project design, duration, budget, etc. So we did actually go deep into all of these and try to what are some of the underlying factors. I'll spare you for that, but I'll just show you the two top ones. Well, not COVID-19. I think COVID-19 is an external factor, but 2 and 3 up there, just showing you some of the challenges that we have seen that was mentioned by you there. So in terms of consultants hiring and firms procurement, the big one was it took you a very, very long time to complete your hiring and procurement processes. Various reasons for this. You may not have sufficient people providing a bid. Internal recruitment procedures not optimal. At times, an incorrect procurement method was used, so you had to redo your bid, if you like. Also very important, it was very difficult to find qualified consultants and even availability of the local consultancy firms. So all in all, these factors results in an inevitable delay. So and because it's not really factored into the project design. So you have a delay. Very often we see you are 6-8 months into having secured the consultants, and that's actually is the day that you can start your projects. So there's a heavy reliance on consultancy, but recruiting and securing these consultancies has both to be is a tremendous challenge. I'll come back to this point a little later as well. The second highest score after COVID was on the stakeholder engagement. Many of you mentioned that you also seen delays because coordination at country level was extremely difficult. As mentioned before, between the delivery partner, the NDA, the beneficiaries, but also, of course, communication with us at UNOPS and GCF. Coordination with NDA was particularly highlighted as one of the challenges that led to delays at country level. Good. So I'm coming to the end now, so I hope it's not too long, but I want to just take one example where we went a little further and trying to think what can we actually do about this, which is on the consultancy process. So there are a lot of underlying issues here, but lengthy internal procedures and processes definitely was highlighted by some of you as one of the key challenges to you. So one thing you might want to consider is, well, we need to take that into consideration when we do our project design. We need to allocate sufficient time to ensure that we have enough time to do recruitment processes. At the moment, that's not what we see in the project design. This almost anticipated project can start on day 1 when you receive the funding, but it's not the case. You have delays, and that leads ultimately to all these no-cost extensions that we are seeing. A second thing that we want to point out is internal process, one thing, but also getting the right consultants at the right time. And with that, we very often see projects that are solely or heavily relying on inputs, technical expertise and inputs from consultants. But whether or not these consultants are actually available, do they exist? I mean, can you really find that magic consultant that can be there on that day? And do you have sufficient funds to secure these consultants? All of that seems to be not considered sufficiently. There is an anticipation when you do your project design that the consultants will be out there, sufficient funds will be available to recruit them, and they can start from day one of the project. So again, in the project design, is there something here we need to look at? Some of the solutions could be, but these are just open suggestions. We could do some peer-to-peer support. You work together, you work in the same area. So if you know of consultants, we could create a roster per region that if some of you have a good experience in working with them. These are just ideas, but very much today, I would like to welcome all of you to provide inputs and ideas and share experiences. So I'm coming to the end, but basically 3 things we want to highlight. We do see a mismatch between project design and project implementation. Projects are simply not finished on time. They are not implemented according to the activities that we see. So there is a mismatch here. Secondly, we acknowledge from your side the management of consultants is challenging. I've mentioned a few times associated with this. Very often we also see projects are prepared sequentially, meaning that activity number 1 needs to be completed until you move to activities number 2, 3, 4, and 5. So with that, there is a challenge. If you can't get activity number 1 off the ground immediately, you can't just immediately skip to activity number 2, etc. So again, a huge bottleneck there. We also did, and this is a little outside our survey, but we did do a delivery partner satisfactory survey at the towards the end of last year to ask, well, to which extent you appreciate the support you received from UNOPS. You were very gracious in your review, but one of the things you did point out was that there was a strong call that you would like more capacity building in terms of project management, tailor-made training on how to manage and operate a GCF readiness project. So my last slide here is really to ask for your feedback, to ask for your comments, and to ask for your questions as well to what you've seen there. We have presented the challenges we found through our analysis, but there are plenty of other things out there. What we would like to hear from you, of course, is how can we help you? Help us help you. What support would be beneficial to you as a delivery partner? With GCF and UNOPS, we're consistently looking at how can we provide our services in the most efficient and effective manner. And we want to continue that process as we go forward. And in that, this analysis would help, but indeed also some of the inputs that we can get from you today. So with that, I'll conclude and I'll hand over to Safa to facilitate the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone for joining us. I'm just going to come here so we can start the discussion already. Maybe Peter, you can join me already. Thanks everyone for joining us. It's very good for us to be here with you. It's a very good opportunity for us to learn from you and to hear everyone's feedback on this presentation. This was prepared by us, but the feedback that we will get today will definitely make it more enriched and will definitely help us move forward in the support that we provide to delivery partners, but also in the grant management support that we provide to GCF. So with that being said, like Peter said already in the presentation, this is to hear your feedback. We would like to have to also answer any questions you have, but to learn from your experience and the day-to-day challenges that you encounter while you implement your projects. We can already open the discussion. You're welcome to ask any questions or maybe share your experience with us. This is open and you're welcome to share any experience. I know the first time to ask a question can be quite intimidating, but please feel free. Please. Oh, just to point out, there is a mic on the table. if we can also hear from you, just introduce yourself very briefly, and then you can ask your question.
Thank you very much. Thanks for that presentation. That's been very enlightening, and it's good to see that it's not only GIZ, where I work for as a readiness delivery partner, face these challenges, but it seems to be a lot of delivery partners who have the same challenges. And it's not a question I want to ask, it's more of a suggestion I would like to make. And what has been quite fruitful in the past, I'm speaking of like 4 or 5 years ago when everything started, is to have regular exchanges between delivery partners, to discuss lessons learned, to speak about good experience with consultants, with advisors, but also, since there are so many other delivery partners now, new delivery partners, to have some kind of a peer-to-peer exchange, supporting those who are new on board. And I think GIZ and the others who are there for quite some time have a lot to share with those who are new on board. And that's something we would happily support as GIZ. And but we need you, we need the GCF, we need UNOPS to steer that process. You have the calling power, and that would be highly appreciated. Thank you.
No, this is definitely a very good point. Just like Peter said in the presentation, peer-to-peer support can be one of the options. And we're very happy to hear that you have already confirmed that from previous lessons learned and previous positive experiences. We constantly see new delivery partners. We, from our side, offer support, but the regionalized support that can be offered across the region, or maybe peer-to-peer support from DPs who have encountered similar challenges, that can definitely be a positive point. Maybe you can add more to that.
Yeah, thank you, and I do really agree. It is something that we should look more into in terms of the onboarding, particularly of new delivery partners. We have the pleasure of actually working with some delivery partners with whom we have like 3, 4, 5. I can't even remember the subscore projects, and that cooperation is of course very easy because they've been through the whole thing one time. They know what's coming up. They know what is expected, the reporting timelines, etc. But I do agree with you that the onboarding is important. Recently, we have received a lot of new grants and a lot of new implementing partners from GCF, which is great because that just a testimony that the project is growing. But at the same time, of course, it's difficult to have this one-to-one relationship with each one of you. But I fully concur, really do. And the more we can establish cooperation between the delivery partners and they can reach out, the better. And I also acknowledge this is something that really falls back on both GCF and UNOPS to set up a system where we can ensure a very successful and effective onboarding of new delivery partners.
Yes, please go ahead.
Good morning. Eli Romero from PAC in Belize. So given that one of the biggest challenges is procurement of services and consultants, maybe getting a directory established with a list of different consultants and experts, and make that readily available to the delivery partners so that they can use that to identify possible consultants and firms for services, and that might help in reducing the time of contracting. That would be very helpful. Or also, if there can be a way that a lot of the delivery partners are advertising these on their local platforms, if though there can be a way to connect it to your platform so that we can extend the reach, especially when we're looking for external firms and consultants, that would really maybe help in terms of the reducing the contracting period or finding a suitable specialist for the services that they're looking for.
Yeah, definitely. The long procurement process was definitely highlighted as one of the challenges because it makes it hard to implement on time and to finish the project on time. Peter, maybe you can add more points to the roster of experts that can be established.
Yeah, I think we also included in the presentation as some of the things we could do. We don't have that. We don't have a list of consultants at UNOPS, and I don't think GCF has either. So if that's something we need to build, but then again, why not? And also that's something we can do with you, particularly if you have a very positive experience with a good consultant that, and also to get a deep understanding of the rate, what is the expected fee rate of these people and availability, etc. Taking note of it, it's not something that exists that we are not sharing with you. It's something we would have to build, and that would then have to be built jointly between with the support and inputs from the delivery partners as well. But then again, I mean, as we showed, we have 119 different delivery partners. They all have experiences. So yeah, thanks for suggesting.
Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Abdou Aziz from Senegal, La Banque Agricole. I joined this session with my CEO, Malik Yai, and want to thank you first for this important session, because we're working together and it's a very good sometime to have some discussion and to build a better, strong, maybe partnership. For my side, one first to share with you some challenges. I think the negotiation period between UNOPS and the DP also is something, it takes some time, very long. And as you know, if the negotiation period take time for the signature of the agreement, this also will be affect the implementation period. For our case, the language is also a barrier, because in the negotiation, what is taking account, it's not only the technical aspects. We need to work with our institutional staff. Sometimes, if you take, for example, a Banque Agricole, many of the staff, they are not very fluent in English. So what I'm suggesting for UNOPS is also on your staff to better take account this point, and during the negotiation period, having maybe one or two of your staff who are very good in French, for example, because many institutional aspects, the technical staff cannot be very good in contact with you. For example, if you want to discuss about the rate, about the amount of, yes, this is very thing who the final sale staff will be involved, etc., etc. So yeah, if we can maybe take account these aspects according to the language, this will be very suitable for us. The consultant hiring also. I joined the suggestion of the last person saying that if maybe UNOPS can share with us maybe a list of some international consultants, it will be also good helping us to have already a view on the potential consultant that we can hearing, and this will help us going quickly for the recruitment of their consultant. The stakeholders engagement, and for this point, what I propose is when we launch the activities, it is also good to have a good discussion between UNOPS, the DP, and the NDA. What we see is that UNOPS is only having a direct discussion with the DP, but not that the more maybe benefits of the readiness is the NDA. So the NDA need to be really involved on the discussion, and knowing that, yes, they have also to look what the activities goes on between the DP and UNOPS like this. This is also important. This communication is really necessary. Yeah, I think that's the points what I want to share with you. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I think definitely the NDA, the point of involving NDAs in our discussion can be taken forward, because it's very important for us to make sure that all stakeholders are involved. As we've seen in the presentation, stakeholder engagement is very important, and it's seen as a challenge that's frequently reported by DPs. So maybe we can consider that as well. Peter?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, by all means, also, I would like to throw it back to you at the delivery partners. I mean, if you want to arrange a type-side meeting with the delivery partner, the NDA and us, we would always say yes. We have done that a few times already, and of course, we are available for those kind of meetings. Whether we need to institutionalize that and do that for every project when a project kicks off, that is something we could consider. But very much, I think the dialogue between the delivery partners and the NDA is also requires a lot from the delivery partner in terms of reaching out. It is not necessarily something I think necessarily UNOPS should take the lead on, but just emphasizing we would always say yes to attending a meeting of this nature and a call. Absolutely. The language, absolutely. I speak French like a 3-year-old. I can't help you, but I think Safa, you can do that. But it is true. It would help, and I understand also your dialogue with banks and so on to get the detailed information and letter of authorization, etc. can be a challenge. So duly noted. So yeah, I think you mentioned a list of consultants as well, echoing what was suggested before. It's a good idea. We'll try to see what can be done coming back when we go back. Thanks.
Hi, thank you for the presentation and this space to share our challenges and recommendations. My name is Pablo Davis from Fondo Acción, a Colombian DAE, and also delivery partner of a few readiness. I would like to build on the comment from our colleague from GIZ, because I think that peer-to-peer support is very important, but I would like to touch on 2 aspects. The first is knowledge management, which I think is very critical. And when you arrive to spaces like this one, you find that the challenges are the same, that we have been through similar situations, that there are products or documents that would be helpful for us, for example. So I think a more and wider dissemination of knowledge products from readiness implementation would be really helpful. There are some examples. We have a community of practices of accredited entities, but similar, like information tends to be dispersed. For example, in our NAP readiness in Colombia, we produced over 40 knowledge products in terms of everything: case studies, technical documents, policy briefs, documented processes like methodologies. And I think that could be helpful for others, but we only share it in the reports, and that's where they end, and that's it. So I'm sure many countries have, and many delivery partners have, a lot of information that would be helpful for us. So I don't know if it's a portal or unifying somehow the information or just making it accessible would be very helpful. And the other one that I wanted to mention is communication, which is also very important in all aspects of implementation, but also with, for example, UNOPS or the GCF. I think it has to be constant and more expedite and easy and accessible, and be able to have closer guidance. I have a very close experience with the NAP readiness in Colombia, and we just shared some emails, and that's it. We share the reports and they give some feedback, and that's it. But if we have any questions, it's an email, and sometimes it takes a lot of time to get the response. So it just being more accessible, and I think it's also my Latin background. We thrive on human contact, so just having just email sends and a few weeks to get a response. So I think that's something that can be definitely improved. Thank you.
Thank you very much for bringing that up. We also thrive over human interaction. That's why we're here today, because we really want to learn from everyone, and we want to interact as much as we can and see other delivery partners who have managed to close out projects or maybe have advanced a lot in the project, like yourself. We can learn from them. The knowledge management point is absolutely noted. It's really important because the products that, or the deliverables that you actually produce are very valuable, and it would be very unfortunate if they, like you said, they are just stored somewhere. They're not really shared with everyone. This is a point that can be moved forward, obviously. Peter? Oh, do you have a mic, or do you want me to share it?
Thank you, and good morning, colleagues from the different DPs working with UNOPS. I work with GCF, and I work with the Division of Portfolio Management. We interact a lot with the UNOPS when it comes to implementation and even right from the design stage. I just want to follow up with Fondation, the example that you provided relating to the communication aspect, and I think it's really critical for the delivery partners to relate, very early at the onset with UNOPS, especially when there are going to be perceived changes. Many a times we've seen requests from UNOPS requesting for changes maybe 2 days before the expiration of the project's duration, and at times when it is beyond the threshold that UNOPS is able to provide and approve, they have to get back to us. And the timeline where they are situated and located is different from where we are. So at times there's going to be like a day's gap before we get the information. And the way the process operates is that we don't just take the action immediately. We have to consult internally with DCP, the origination department, to ask them maybe where there are changes in activities or there are changes to budgets, and we have to also consult internally. So in terms of so ultimately there will be a delay in response. And so we can't attribute that delay alone to UNOPS. And I believe at times you might feel that they are the ones delaying, but it's because of the process that has to go into being. So the suggestion that we normally would provide is immediately you realize that there might be an issue, there's a delay, even if, like you said, a quick mail to alert UNOPS that there's a possibility we might be doing a change, might be requesting for a change or an extension or whatever. This is to alert you. And because we have bi-weekly meetings with UNOPS, they normally will tell us upfront, these are expected change requests from some of our partners. And so we are already aware, and it can help in fast tracking some of these changes. And we really want to encourage that we don't need to wait till the end of almost to the close of the project, especially when the no cost extension is going to come. Like Peter had mentioned, it's not the transactional cost for us to approve to review. It can take a while. So we'll really encourage that early onset of information, provision of information will be critical. And I think I like your suggestion on the community of practice. I don't think we have a community of practice for readiness. Maybe that might be one way of getting peer-to-peer learnings and discussion. Even talking about vulnerability methodologies, how other delivery partners have been able to do it. There might be best practices from countries. And so I think we might need an internal discussion on this to see how that can also be promoted, just to fast track and improve on the delivery of results from readiness. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paula, for highlighting these points. We're very happy to have GCF colleagues with us today because we get a different insight as well from their perspective. And we can obviously understand why the process maybe sometimes can seem to you lengthy, but in particular, in detail, we can understand why it is lengthy. So I would echo everything that Paula has said.
No, just very quickly. I mean, we acknowledge on the communication side that our response time, we would like it to be faster. It is challenging due to the number of projects. And as Paula highlighted that we do receive a very high number of urgent requests that needs to be attended to immediately, projects that are inspiring and needs extension. And we sometimes only have like 7 days to process these. And as I mentioned before, these requests we review, we go back to you, clarification, it goes to GCF, they have more questions, we come back to you, and it is time, so it absorbs a lot of time. These are explanations, but I understand from a delivery partner's perspective, it's not satisfactory not to hear from us if there's a significant time delay. The hope is we will have fewer projects going forward, be faster, be more efficient. But like Paula said, really do look closely at the guidelines. When are you supposed to submit your request, etc. We do also notify you of upcoming reports saying, in a month's time, we expect you to submit your IPRs. We also write to you when there's, if it's 3 months left of your projects, they're asking you, are you expecting to finish on time, or do you expect you need an extension, and so on. So we try to preempt the situation where receiving no cost extension requests at the last minute. Unfortunately, it still comes to course, and it absorbs a lot of our time because we need to prioritize those. Community of practice knowledge sharing, absolutely 100% behind that idea. I think we note it down. We want to take it forward. We also feel like been doing this for 4 years. We do actually have quite a lot of sort of ideas and lessons learned that we can share with you. We do share frequently asked questions, etc., material with you when we submit to you the first grant support agreement and so on. But it could be more institutional and have an online platform. Absolutely, we'll take note of that as well. Thank you.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Good morning to everyone. I'm Aïssata Sall from CAC Senegal, Direct Access Entity and GP in many readiness programs in Africa. I have just one recommendation to have many more meetings with you to share some issues and to receive your feedback in addition to the update notes and report. Thank you.
Thank you for suggesting that. We, like Peter already mentioned, we are welcome. You are welcome to schedule a meeting to let us know when you would like to meet with us, and we are always here to provide support where needed. This is particularly our job here as the GCF UNOPS agreement. Yes, please.
Kia ora ana. My name is Vaini. I'm from Bank of the Cook Islands. So a special greeting to yourself, Peter. Really pleased that I'm able to meet you in person finally, and later on, please, can we have a photo taken? I guess my intervention at the minute is our experience with UNOPS was one of the experiences whereby our challenge was because of an internal UNOPS and GCF contracting arrangement. So the point that I wanted to highlight is my anxiousness at the time was I had the consultants, we had our work plan, we had everything aligned, but we couldn't mobilize because we couldn't get that certainty of funding, receipt of funding. So with that, my ask then really is who makes the decision at the end of the day to release that money, and whether with that type of experience, what escalation can happen, because we're ready to roll, but we couldn't. So it's a matter of who makes the decision and who can give the final call for those funds to be released.
Well, who makes the decision? I'll probably leave that later, but just to highlight a bit that your case was a specific one where, like you said, the GCF UNOPS agreement was particularly ending. So it created an uncertainty for you. Obviously, we acknowledge that and we understand that, but then who makes the decision? That depends actually on the case to case. The UNOPS GCF agreement allows UNOPS to disperse funds to delivery partners according to the agreement that we have with the delivery partners. But then your case was particularly specific because of the GCF and UNOPS arrangement. Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, but there were quite a few projects affected by this situation, and basically it was GCF UNOPS project agreement was expiring, so we couldn't provide the extension requested. It's a little technical, but whenever we need to adjust and amend the agreement between GCF and UNOPS, it's way above my pay grade. So it goes into our legal departments, and these negotiations do take some time. They may seem very straightforward, hugely frustrating for you because you're waiting, and from our side, we really can't do anything at project level other than push and make sure that the legal entities have the right information available to make the decision. The good news is, of course, we recently did manage to get the extension. So now we are very comfortable in saying we can support all projects going forward. But I acknowledge the challenges that this situation caused you.
Yes, please.
Hello. Can you hear me? Oh, hi, good morning. This is Andrea Rodriguez from Fundación Avina, a regional direct access entity. And well, we have implemented and already concluded 4 readiness projects with UNOPS. And apologies, I did not see your presentation, but hopefully I'm not, I might not be taking into consideration some of the elements that you presented. But the first thing I wanted to say is that for Fundación Avina, it was a very positive experience working with UNOPS. We're very thankful. I think we were very lucky to be one of the first entities acting as delivery partners with UNOPS, and perhaps that helped the number of the frequency of responses that we had, and the fact that you were very responsive to the different needs that we have. Most of the needs that and the challenges that we face, I would say they were mostly related to the country context. I mean, there's, when it comes to projects like readiness, we have a lot of rotation within the countries in Latin America, and I'm sure it's probably the same in other areas around the world. So we have to deal with these challenges, and of course that has negative implications in terms of the planning, in terms of the time frame, in terms of the budgeting. But then again, at least I remember that when we were having those issues, UNOPS was quite responsive to our needs and the needs for changing either budgets or activities. I think I would want to suggest or perhaps echo a lot of the suggestions that were raised here. One is this need for creating a database or platform for sharing information, and not just because there is a lot of important information produced as a result of the readiness projects, but also because given the level of rotation that we have in our countries, a lot of times, we have to face, I don't know, maybe a number of new NDAs in one project, and then they're not aware that something has been done already by another partner, and then sometimes a request has been placed with something that has been already produced. So I think it's also important for strengthening the capacities and the institutions within the countries to know what has been produced with GCF resources. I think other elements such as having information on consultants, on fees, that would be very helpful for many of the delivery partners. But I also think, and I know that perhaps this is not specifically the function of UNOPS, and that's something that at some point we discussed, but it's, I know that the focus is mostly on the management side of the projects, but I think it's very crucial to find a way to capture all the positive results that come out of readiness projects beyond the capacity of the entity to deliver those projects, because they are really positive experiences that I think sometimes they get lost in those reports, and that could be very helpful to guide the GCF in terms of the enabling conditions created, the capacities created, the different elements that truly help setting the line for country ownership and for other elements. And I know, again, that this is something that perhaps goes beyond the capacity of UNOPS, but to find a way in which GCF and UNOPS can discuss those element further. And finally, I think one of the key challenges that we had during the implementation of the projects was always the issue with the financial components or the financial implications. And we had situations in which, as many of the delivery partners here had to implement projects during COVID period times, which was very challenging. But then it implied doing the work, but doing the work differently. But then we were affected by a reduction in our delivery partner fee, for instance, because the work was done, but then the amount of resources were not executed as such, which was not established in the contract. And I think especially for the small entities, that has negative implications in terms of how we program and how we invest our time in monitoring and implementing the projects. But other than that, we had a very positive experience with UNOPS. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're very happy to learn that you had a positive experience, and we are very happy to learn that you have accomplished those projects as needed. Peter, do you want to come in with maybe the final point about the DP fees and everything? Maybe we can suggest the guidance.
Andrea, thanks for this. I think also you are the first delivery partner who went through the performance assessment tool we designed back then. So it's good to meet you, and thanks for sharing these experiences. I think you echo a lot of what's been suggested in terms of this knowledge management sharing of communication databases, etc. On the DPV, I will leave that to our GCF colleagues. I don't know, Hilal or Rahul, and also Rahul. I mean, maybe the suggestion in terms of results that came out there. Is there a way we can sort of what we discussed previously? What Andrea is saying about. I mean, there are a lot of good results, of course, coming at country level. How can we sort of capture these and have them communicated wider? I don't know if I'm paraphrasing what you're saying, but that's it. So the DPV, maybe Hilal, if you can respond to that. And then
thank you. Thank you for raising this question. My name is Hilal. I'm the finance specialist and working with the Division of Service Services. DPV, as you know, the DPV policy is approved by the board, and we cannot change without approval of the board of the percentage of the DPV. What calculation we adopt is across all the funding proposal as well as readiness portfolio is the delivery partner should charge or will be entitled to charge the DPP based on the amount they spend to implement the activity. As you mentioned in your case, during the COVID period, to adjust the cost, we give a increase the PMC threshold from 7.5% to 12%, so that the additional cost can be covered from the additional PMC budget. But unfortunately, we couldn't change the DPP rules because it's board approved policy. So we cannot go beyond that approved policy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, and then maybe we can go back to the GCF, the colleagues right after, but for now, please go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for the insightful presentation. I'm very new kid on the block. We represent Asian Disaster Preparedness Center. It's headquartered in Bangkok, an intergovernmental organization working in 23 countries. So we're just on the verge of delivering our FMCA and our first NDA proposal. So we'll be doing a lot of back and forth, and that's the very reason I'm here as well. A lot of questions, but I also, it's based on what we already have in mind, the consultant roster. So my first point is, can we embed, like we're already working on the proposal and the FMCA, but can we embed the consultant into the project design is, you know, as we, like you all are saying, it has to be embedded somewhere in the project design itself. That's my first point. The other one is the proposal we are developing with a particular NDA in our member country. And we already have our M&E, you know, systems. And yesterday I attended a very interesting clinic on the, you know, I think it was on the new log frames and frameworks that GCF is developing. But early on in the stage, can we be, you know, sort of handheld by GCF or I don't know, UNOPS on the proposal itself, you know, instead of doing a really big back and forth, if that is the case. And I don't know what the scenario is with new projects and things like that. So yes, very excited, and with just one NDA, but we hope to be sort of expanding to many other NDAs because we work in 23 countries. But thank you, very insightful.
Thank you very much. I think since your questions about the proposal, this is a good opportunity, and also the change in the logical framework that you explained. This is a good opportunity maybe to ask Rahul to come in with some of the changes that are being put in place currently, either with the framework or also maybe with the reporting requirements as well. Okay.
Thank you. First, I would like to start from the point you raised relating to the proposal development. And I believe, though I'm not working with DCP, but I do know that for DCP, they do have a roster of experts and consultants that they use to help countries or even DPs when they are putting together the proposal. to guide and to even provide. And I also think right now we are working on revising a guidebook that also give maybe a step-by-step point on how you can go through a proposal, and it's a form of guidance. Right now we are working on, which has just been approved, the Readiness Results Management Framework, and it is to help us to be able to align what is starting at the design stage down to the implementation, so that we can extract the information to showcase the result delivery. So on this note, what our colleagues have actually, we've started the initial consultations to be able to get feedback from colleagues and delivery partners and stakeholders on what should be put in it and how it aligns with each of the indicators in the for the results management framework and law frame. And unfortunately, as this meeting is holding, there's a parallel one on proposal development where they actually are also providing information on how to use, the law frame. Yesterday afternoon also, there was also a discussion, I don't know whether you're able to attend that meeting, where they actually laid bare the RRMF, what it means and how one could work. But part of what is going to be happening is that there is still going to be massive consultation with our partners where this issue is going to be, fully explained. I would like to ask my colleague Raul to also provide a step-to-step process on how we are going to work on the RRMF analysis.
Thanks a lot. If you don't mind, I'm going to come up front. I want to address a lot of the things that you've just talked about, because we work very closely with UNOPS. And firstly, my name is Rahul Vaswani. I'm a portfolio management specialist under Fola's team. She's our team lead and the lead coordinator with UNOPS. And my colleagues are at the back. Hakeem, could you please stand up? Hakeem Hajiel, he manages the Africa projects. Bari, my close associate, he's also working with us as a consultant. He's also from Africa originally, but also manages many projects with us. So first, I want to actually thank you, many colleagues, Mr. Abdulaziz, if I got your name correct, Pablo, Andrea, and other names, also Waine, thanks very much. I want to address some of the very important issues you just talked about. One about knowledge management. Are we sharing learning from one entity to another within the readiness program? Can you talk to each other? Can you look at what's being produced in one region, one country, and is it beneficial to another? We need to enhance that. That's one absolute area we're looking at. And as Fola said, one of the key vehicles for clarity on what the readiness program is, can do, and what is possible within the whole gamut of readiness will be in the readiness guidebook. That will be ready by the end of this year. We are working on it. A draft version, after it is fully prepared, a draft version will be circulated to entities. And you will have the opportunity to provide comments on what's in it and whether you want to add more things which are unclear to you in the present context of implementation. So that readiness guidebook will provide you a lot of information, let's say from start to finish of the entire readiness program. So how do you, the question that I believe the person from the Asia Disaster Preparedness Center asked is, how do you actually even start the conversation about a project, a readiness project? And as Fola rightfully said, the right place to do it is the programming division, which is the division of country programming. But all of that information will be in the guidebook. Where do you start from? Where's the first step? Where's the first door you knock on? And then what's the role in implementation and other aspects? The second about the challenges of getting consultants, and this is completely very well accepted, very well understood that we need to have a roster of consultants, which can be useful to you in your context. And by that, we mean consultants who speak the local language. So Spanish, French, English, and so on and so forth, Portuguese. But perhaps another suggestion to UNOPS in itself is, I do know that UNOPS has a roster of its consultants. Perhaps that's something, your entities could, or the DPs in your portfolio could tap into. This is something that we can very easily, very conveniently arrange. And it's of mutual benefit to everybody. We develop in some ways a community of practice with those consultants. Then the issues about procurement delays. Now we've heard this for a long time, and it's resoundingly clear that in COVID there were serious delays in procuring consultants. The rates were higher. Consultants don't want to travel to the countries. That's one thing. The second is also just countries have different priorities in COVID. So there are challenges in focusing on the readiness implementation. So there are delays in terms of bureaucracy and procurement. One of the changes that we're looking at, and these are the changes that UNOPS has called us to explain, is we are now going to move from biannual reporting, that means every 6 months, we're going to move to annual reporting. So for most grants in the portfolio, all new grants, and for most existing grants, which are not near closing, not near coming to completion or closure, we will definitely move to annual progress reporting, which basically means you're not spending another round of reporting to UNOPS. Likewise, for grants which are managed by GCF, they will also report to us once a year. So that's a lower burden in some ways. It's a lower project management cost and time involved. Along with that, you have the opportunity to seek an annual disbursement. So instead of seeking disbursements every 6 months, you can seek an annual disbursement, which allows you to plan better in terms of hiring consultants on a long-term basis. So you can, through one procurement process, once you've received your funds once in that annual disbursement, you can plan ahead, hire consultants for the entire year or in batches, but you can have one procurement process. You don't have to rely on 2 disbursements. So that will hopefully improve your efficiency of procurement. The third, of course, we already talked about. Let's have a roster of consultants so you can readily look into consultants. Then the question from the gentleman from the Asia Disaster Preparedness Center is, you were in the clinic yesterday, the RRMF clinic. So the readiness results management framework is now the basis for which all readiness proposals will be designed. Going forward, any readiness proposal that you want to design with a country, with an NDA, for a country, with a country, with GCF, will have to look at the RRMF, the Readiness Results Management Framework. What that means is we have a board-approved list of readiness outcomes. There are 5 outcomes, 5 objective areas, and within them, 18 outcomes. Those are fixed. You have to choose from them. Within those objectives and outcomes, you have to choose the outputs that you will focus on in that particular readiness project in the country. And within those outputs, you will have to respond. You will have to select indicators that you will achieve within every output, and you'll have to respond to those indicators in your progress reports. So let's say you have a proposal you want to develop for a country, let's say Senegal. When you come in, you have to look at the Readiness Results Management Framework in Senegal. What is that the country wants to do? You select the right objective. There are 5 objectives. Number 3, for example, is NAP Adaptation Support, the National Adaptation Planning and Support. If you want to do that, the country and you will discuss with DCP, you will select that. Within that, you will select the specific outcomes within that objective, the specific outcomes you want to focus on. And then within those specific outcomes, what outputs you want to achieve within the 3-year or a 2-year period of the NAP grant. And for those specific outputs, what indicators you will report on annually to the secretary. So the hierarchy is very clear. And it's going to simplify the processes much, much more, I believe, than what we have right now. That also allows you to focus on implementation on finite results, no longer on, I would say, activities. So yes, you will articulate the activities you want to do, but the actual focus will be on the results from those activities. And you will report on the results, we will verify the results, and so on and so forth. Then the question of what Andrea also posed is, these results are important. These results are relating to also knowledge products. For example, in Colombia, I believe Pablo said you've developed 40 NAP-related products, knowledge products, and presumably they're in Spanish. So they're very useful to the entire Spanish-speaking community. Even in Africa, some there are Spanish-speaking countries, but of course in the entire Latin America. So those will be archived in a repository with GCF. We will categorize them in the appropriate way with appropriate tags. And then they will be readily available to all DPs, existing and future DPs and past DPs, so that they can reach out and look at this information. And more importantly, accessible to NDAs, to the countries, to understand what has been accomplished, what can be borrowed upon, and what is relevant in the geographic context or the political context. So these are the upcoming changes. There's one more change that we briefly touched upon in terms of amendments. As of now, every grant or any entity that's managing a grant that wants to request a change, such as a change in implementation arrangement or a change in the budget, has to send a request 60 days in advance. That's the minimum period we have established. Quite often, DPs don't meet that, which is why we have the challenges that we have from both ends. So DPs are sending the request late to UNOPS, and then when UNOPS communicates to us, if it's a complex scenario, then it takes time for us also to understand it, and then the time is very short to approve that particular change request. Going forward, it'll be now 90 days. So for any change request of any sort in a grant, you have to send it minimum 90 days prior to the grant's expiry date, the completion date. So that's another change that's going to happen. So that will allow you, that means the DP and the NDA, the time to plan ahead, also allow us time to look at the case in a proper manner and then to respond to you. Now, the final aspect that even Hilal touched upon, this issue about DP fees. Now, DP fee is like Hilal, as Hilal explained, is a board approved policy. It can't change. If it has to change, it has to go through a very clear process. You know, it has to go all the way to the board to be reapproved to change the DP fee policy. Now, all of this, that means what is unchangeable, what is fixed, will be absolutely and fundamentally clear in the readiness guide, which is going to come by the end of this year. So before the beginning of the next year, 2023, God willingly, hopefully, we will have all of this information in place. The guidebook will have all of the information from start to finish of the readiness program. It's a one-stop reference point with all the links, all the forms that you can click on, and you'll be taken to the right places to get the information. We, of course, stand at your disposal at any time for any queries. You write to UNOPS, who is your partner now. UNOPS can transfer the queries to us, and if you wish, you may even write to us directly and to the country programming division in DCP. And many of our colleagues here are from the country programming division. There's one more change that you need to know is going to happen. It's absolutely imminent, is that right now, all of your reporting is happening over email. You send your interim progress report or your completion report to UNOPS by email. Let's say by the end of this year, you'll have to gravitate to online reporting. We call the system the Portfolio Performance Management System. And it's going to be, in our understanding, very, very efficient compared to what we're doing now. One, as we know, we will move to annual progress reporting, right? So you have to report only once a year. And you have the opportunity with the same report, the annual report, either with the report or within 30 days from the report to submit your annual disbursement request. And one condition exists is that when you submit your annual progress report and your annual disbursement request, you will have to submit your annual audit report for what you did in the past 1 year, so that we can corroborate the numbers of expenditures and make sure that your disbursement criteria is met and your disbursement can be released. And also what you've reported in the annual progress report is verified by the numbers in the audit reports. So it'll be far more efficient for everybody. Now, when you move to online reporting in the Portfolio Performance Management System, you will all have access. Every individual delivery partner or NDA that has a grant will have access to the PPMS system. You can log in, and as soon as you log in, you will see all the grants that are in your portfolio in that system. So if you have more than one grant, if you have one grant, obviously you know directly which grant you have to report against. If you have more than one grant, you can choose which grant you have to report against. Once you click on that grant, it'll be an online system. Everything will be in that system. So right now, whatever you report in the interim progress report will be identical online. Well, it'll be actually finer than what it is now. So there are some sections we have actually removed to make the process much more simpler. You will have section 1 with the basic information of the grant, which will already be pre-populated from our side, so you don't have to fill any information there. We will already tell you this is your grant, this is your approved amount, your approved dates, the last disbursement, and so on and so forth. If you receive the no-cost extension, what is the extended deadline? I mean, what is the new grant expiry date? That will already be there in section 1. Section 2 will be the readiness results management framework. You'll have to report against that. Even for existing grants, the grants which did not subscribe to the RRMF previously, we will retrofit that grant to the RRMF. So when you open PPMS and you see your grant, let's say for Senegal, you will see that we have already selected the objective, outcome, and output, and most likely even the indicator that's applicable to your grant. So you are not going to have to select that. You have to only report against the indicator. So it's as easy as that. And below every indicator, there will be a box. Have you made progress? If yes, report against it. If not, please tell us why not. And if there's any variance, please tell us very briefly why the variance. So it's much more simplified. Then the budget reporting table is exactly the same. Whatever you submit in the budget reporting table today will be exactly the same online. As of now, we're still hoping that it'll be all online. So whatever you type in an Excel sheet offline, you will have to type exactly the same thing online. So not in the Excel sheet. If something happens and we are not able to materialize that, then you will still have to do the regular Excel sheet and attach it as you are doing even now. So nothing will change substantively there. Then we have only one more remaining section. So the budget reporting table will also include the procurement information. If there are changes, then you report it. If there are no changes, no need to report. Then only one section is remaining, which is a very important section that we've just talked about now. The challenges and lessons learned. So you will have in that section, I think 4 or 5 questions. 2 or 3 of them are just multiple choice questions. What are the challenges? Is it COVID? Is it procurement? So on and so forth. And I think the last 2 questions are descriptive questions. Can you tell us a good story from your implementation? Can you tell us something you've learned under the implementation? It has to be successful or unsuccessful. What have you picked up that we can archive, make a knowledge product out of it, and then share it for the benefit of other colleagues? So that section is very important. So these are just 4 or 5 sections in that online reporting, which is much more simplified, will save you time. Again, all of this is with the vision to reduce the burden of reporting, to improve actual project management on the ground because it's results-based. And third, to free up time from reporting and from sending disbursement requests and move that time to actual implementation. So these changes, I hope, will improve efficiency and efficacy of implementation. So these are the main things. Any questions for us? And then we can answer now.
Thank you very much, Rahul. Thank you. This is really good. We're very happy to see that there are changes coming up and they are hopefully going to increase the efficiency and to reduce the burden of some of these challenges on the implementation. I'm very mindful of the time. We've already come to the end of the session, but maybe we can collect 1 or 2 feedbacks on this very good, insightful discussion with Rahul.
We plan to roll out the reporting and the disbursement request form for all readiness grants before the end of the year. The only thing that will be pending for the next year is the change requests. Any change request that you send, and it's a very simple form actually. So even if you send it by email, it's not a lot of work. That will still remain on email basis until the mid of next year. But online reporting should in the best case scenario or in the normal track scenario be implemented by the end of this year. So the next report that you send next year, the first reporting cycle of next year, will be online.
Any more points? Any more discussions that we can bring? Yes, please.
Share the presentation with us. Is there a possibility to share the presentation with us, like with the participants here?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I just want to assure the colleagues here that there's no decision that we are taking here that will not be communicated directly to you through UNOPS. as a lot of restructuring is ongoing within within GCF, just to make sure that our processes, our systems are done in such a way that we can make it much more efficient and make it easy for us to be able to operate with you. So please be rest assured that any changes, even the revised guidebook and any other system changes will be communicated at the appropriate time. Thank you so much for your efforts and time to be here with us.
Thank you, Fola, for highlighting that. Definitely, this will be communicated to you as the changes are being operationalized. Are there any more, is there any more feedback or any more comments that we can take? If not, we can already try to wrap up the session because we are mindful of the time. Thank you very much for everyone who joined us today. We know this is a very early session and it was happening along with other sessions as well that you might be interested in, but you chose to be here. So thank you very much for joining us. Again, thank you to GCF colleagues for being with us because it helped us get better insights and get more insights about what is going to come up as changes in the processes. Thank you to all DPs and NDAs who chose to join us. And we look forward to hear more from you. You are welcome to reach out to us over email. You can share more challenges as you move along the way, and we will be here to support where support is needed. Do you want to add more something?
We have big screen saying in, so I know we need to print up. But again, I'll just echo what you're saying. Thank you very much for all your contribution questions. We are here up till in the Friday, so if you want to meet with us bilaterally, let us know. Thanks to GCF colleagues, extremely encouraging what Rahul is referring to in terms of making things simpler, faster, and more efficient. We are all for that. It'll make our life at UNOPS easier as well. But thank you all for a very great session. I really appreciate your participation and inputs. Thank you.